Hello, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Discover with Spinati. I'm your host, Dr. Spinati. Today is episode number 48, and I'm going to be talking about something that's very special. Now, the majority of the things that I talk about, actually, all the things that I talk about on this podcast, I talk about from personal experience, but also backed up by research. Now, today, I'm going to be talking about my transformation, my body transformation that I was managed to do from fat slob to very fit in a matter of 3 months. I'm going to discuss that with you. I'm going to discuss a few short things that you can do so that you too can transform yourself as well. Because I know that a lot of people want to transform themselves, but they don't know where to start. They don't know how to do it. And I'm here to tell you it's a lot easier than you think. So, this is the title of today's podcast: How to Transform Your Entire Body in 3 months. Because when I started, and I started this back in April of 2002, and I was in shape, tip top shape, and I'll show you pictures. I was in tip top shape by July. Okay, so it took me a mere 3 months, but I was very dedicated and I knew exactly how to do it. I'm going to explain to you the very easy science behind doing it. So the first thing is this slide. Now, in terms of me being accomplished, I was definitely accomplished. Okay, dentist, my own business, I had a lot of things going on for me, but I was still not happy. As you can see here, I wasn't very happy, and the happiness doesn't really mean that I wasn't jolly. I couldn't laugh and whatever. I just didn't feel like there was much of a strong purpose, right? I didn't feel like my purpose, like my being had a purpose, right? I knew what I was here to do. I had a vocation. I still have a vocation. I'm a dentist, but I just didn't feel like there was a big kind of thing that I had to contribute to until I decided to transform my body. Because one day I woke up and I was like, why am I doing this? Why am I allowing myself to be fat, not allowing myself to be fit? Why am I allowing myself to do that? And so I decided to not just do the daily grind, as you can see here, because I really wanted purpose. I absolutely wanted purpose. I wanted something to hold on to. I wanted something that's going to wake me up in the morning, and I knew that something had to change. And from my readings, because I do read a lot, from my readings, I reflected, and I'm like, okay, well, if I'm going to change something, and it's going to be very drastic, then it's going to be my body. Okay, because in order for you to change your mind, there are some things that you have to do, but it's going to be very hard for you to have a metric, because if you're trying to memorize something, then it's going to take you a while to memorize something. But then again, how do you measure memorization, speed of memorization, how much you memorize, and all that stuff? But with your body, it's undeniable, right? I mean, whether or not you're counting the pounds, or you're looking at the way that you look in the mirror, or the fat percentage, whatever it is, there is a metric that you can really physically look at and actually see in a very short period of time. And I'm here to tell you how to do it, because it's quite important. If you're in this situation right now, if you're in a situation where you feel like you're stuck, you feel like you don't know what you're doing, you feel like no matter what you do, nothing's really juicing you, nothing's really exciting you, you really have to reflect inward, and you have to look in the mirror and see yourself in the mirror. Do you like what you see in the mirror? Is what you see in the mirror good? Is it fit? Is it something that you can be proud of? Does it show who you truly are? Or are you trying to justify who you truly are when you look at yourself in the mirror? Now, this is not about vanity. This is not about, oh, look at me, I'm so gorgeous, I'm so whatever, this and this. It's not about that at all. It's literally about how you feel about yourself when you look at yourself in the mirror, because your reflection is you. At the end of the day, it's you. Don't mind anybody else and their criticisms and their discriminatory remarks. Don't mind that at all. Look at you. Is this who you are when you look yourself in the mirror? Because if you're not fit, I will argue that this is not who you are. That's not the optimized you. The Aristotle once said, he said that the purpose of our life is to live to our utmost potential. And so he said that if you can do something, you must do it. So for you to look at yourself in the mirror and to know that you're not absolutely fit and you're your tip-top maximum fitness, which you should be. And I'm not saying you should be like absolutely ripped and whatever, but fitness has a certain level where you reach a level and you're fit, right? You look amazing, you feel amazing, you sleep better, you breathe better, your clothes look amazing, you sound better when you talk. When you're fit, you're a lot better. You're a much, much different person than you are when you're not fit. So this is how I was when I started back in April 2002. And then this is what I got to in July 2002. That's literally the transformation. Didn't take any drugs, didn't take any creatine. I took protein, okay, but that's whey, okay, but that's it. That's all I took. But I had a lot of discipline. And the person who was videotaping me at the time, his name is Gustavo. You can ask him. You can DM him and ask him, did he actually do all this stuff? Did he, was he measuring his food and all that nice stuff? The answer is absolutely. Okay, now it's actually a lot simpler than you think. So it says here the quickest way for you to change your life is change your body, hands down. And it is. I discussed that with you and I told you why. Now let's see the next thing here. You have to do a daily analysis. And I talked about this so often, right? Opportunities are always at our door, but we tend to ignore them. Opportunities are literally everywhere. No matter where you look, opportunities are there, but you just have to see them. Now, the biggest opportunity loss on a daily basis is our time. We don't actually account for the time. I've talked about this several times in previous podcasts, and the biggest thing that you can do to help yourself right away, immediately, before even going to the gym, is for you to do a 2-week analysis of your time, for you to see where are you spending your time over the next 2 weeks, and for you to actually have a log on your calendar, whichever, digital or analog, doesn't matter, but for you to actually catch yourself and how you're actually spending your time. How much TV are you watching? How much time are you spending on your phone? How much are you scrolling and mindlessly just kind of wasting hours? Because that is the biggest opportunity cost of your life. The amount of time that you waste on useless stuff. That's number one. Number two is for you then, because once you realize you have so much time, because if you tell me you're so busy you don't have time to get in shape, that's a lie. You and I both know it's a lie. You and I both know that if your life depends on you getting in shape, you'd get in shape. You'd find a way for you to get in shape. You'd cut down the amount of times that you watch TV. You'd cut down the amount of times you spend with your friends. You'd cut down the amount of time that you spend uselessly, mind-numbingly on quote-unquote family things, which we both know the majority of families, what they do is they congregate around the TV and they just watch TV all day. They don't actually talk. They don't actually do things. The majority of families don't do that. So if you were to actually measure the amount of time that you use, well, I mean, you see you have a lot of time for you to actually get in shape. And getting in shape is the fastest way for you to change your body. And once you change your body, it becomes incredibly, incredibly fast and much easier for you to find your purpose and for you to change your mind, to optimize your mind. Okay, now back to this. So this is the last slide, by the way. But before I get there, I do want to give you some practical tips with regards to, how to get in shape. Now, I'm not a fitness trainer at all. I'm a dentist. Okay, I have been trained as a dentist. I have a license as a dentist. So I'm not a personal trainer, but I've been training for a while. Okay, I've been training for a while. I've been obviously, I've let myself slip for a little bit and then got back on the fitness train and haven't let go since. And I've been training every single day. Okay, I'm one of those 7 days a week kind of people. I'm one of those people that wakes up really early in the morning, goes to the gym before going to work, eat. I'm not so strict with how I eat now, but I do have a standard with how much weight I'm allowing myself to gain and then how much I can cut back so I can get back into shape. So I do have a framework to work with. I don't just let myself go how I used to when I showed you the picture. Now, if you have let yourself go and you're like, all right, I want to get in shape. First of all, you have to get very serious. It really starts with your mind. I know it's like everything when it comes to money making, when it comes to relationships, when it comes to your body, it all starts with your mind. It starts with how you believe yourself. If you believe in yourself that you can do it, then there's literally nobody that can stop you. Back in April, I literally told myself that this is going to happen because I said I cannot not do this. So that I already put in my mind that it's going to happen. I just needed to put it into play, and I did. So what I started doing is I started measuring my food. And some people ask me, they're like, okay, well, how do you know how much you need? Well, to be honest with you, I didn't. I didn't want to complicate the situation. So I just picked a number arbitrarily, right? So I just picked the amount of protein that I needed. I knew the certain percentage around. So I needed around 40% protein, 40% carbs, and I think I said 20% fat. And then I played around those numbers, right? So I would measure and I would say, okay, well, if I'm eating this much during the day, for each meal, I need to make it so it's 40, 40, 20. So then I did. So then I measured Let's say I measured 150 grams of protein, I measured 150 grams of carbs, and I measured a certain amount of fats, which is like olive oil, avocados, almonds, or whatever. Okay, stuff like that. And then I just saw myself, right, for the week. I'm like, okay, how do I feel? How's my energy? Am I losing weight? Because I go on the scale and I'm like, am I losing weight? Am I gaining muscle? Am I gaining strength? And I'm like, okay, well, it looks like, and I had that phase where I'm like, okay, it looks like I'm gaining fat. Yes, I'm getting stronger, but I'm getting fat. So I need to cut back on the carbs, which is exactly what I did. I cut back on the carbs. I increased the protein. So I went 200 grams of protein and I decreased the carbs to 100, right? And I kept playing around those numbers until I got it just right. Once I got it just right and I started feeling hungry throughout the entire day, that's how I knew that I hit my target, because no one can actually tell you the number for your body. You have to do an experiment, but you experiment based on a framework. So you start off with just some arbitrary number and then you measure your weight. Okay, you get on a scale, you measure your weight and you see your strength. Okay, if you're trying to gain strength, you see your strength. If you're trying to lose weight, you look at the scale. And then you play around those numbers: proteins, carbs, fats. If you're trying to lose weight, then you decrease the carbs. It's very simple. You decrease the amount of carbs, you make sure that you have enough protein, you have enough fats, and you have enough nutrients. Okay, you don't actually need that much carbs. So you decrease the carbs as much as possible. And obviously, it goes without saying, you do not eat out at all, like zero. Okay, because eating out definitely will work against you in every sense of that word. They use so many chemicals, and it's not just like, the fried things or whatever. No, it's actually like they use chemicals for you to come back. Truly. All right. Now, that's it. And you just keep doing that. You exercise. Okay. You exercise, you pick a routine, any routine. Just make sure you're spending 45 minutes to an hour in the gym, and don't talk to anybody. Okay. So that's another tip that I had, is I didn't talk to a single soul, and I always time myself. I had a timer. I used my phone. As soon as I got into the gym, I timed myself and I looked at the time, because I knew that if I timed myself and I was very precise in how much time I was spending in the gym and how much time I had in between each set, I would time myself. Literally, I would say, okay, I'm going to only give myself 30 seconds between sets. I'm going to give myself 45 seconds between sets. And I would do that. As soon as it hit 45 seconds, I'd get back on the whatever bench press machine and I'd start repping. I always time myself. So just do that. So it's all about calculation. So calculate the amount of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Calculate the amount of fat that you're losing or gaining week by week, and then adjust those numbers accordingly, right? So play around with those numbers. Never eat out, and time yourself when you go to the gym. Those are literally the principles behind getting in shape. Did I have a notepad and paper and actually took note of all the things that I did in the gym and how much weight that I lift? I didn't. I honestly didn't. All I cared about was for me to be consistent and for me to lift a certain amount of weight every single time. Would it have been better for me to actually write down how much weight I was lifting and what exercises I was doing on a certain day? Yes, obviously. But it required a lot more work, and I wasn't really interested in that. I wasn't interested in, bodybuilding or going into competition. I just wanted to get into shape. So, but I knew for me to get into shape, I needed to keep it as simple as possible. I needed to make sure that my nutrients were coming in properly. I was feeding myself well. I was sleeping well, and that I was exercising well. So that's it. That is the formula for you to get in shape. Don't complicate it. Don't believe anyone else that says it is complicated. Don't worry about what you're eating. If you're worried about what you're eating, you're not serious about losing weight. You're not serious about gaining strength. If you're actually worried about what to eat, if you're worried about, I want to make this fancy, you're not serious. You have to really make food a source of energy and not a source of, you don't live to eat. Okay. At this point, when you're switching your mind, you're no longer living to eat, because when you live to eat, you start getting fat. When you eat to live, that's when you start getting into shape. And then once you get into shape, then you can figure out your entire purpose and then get the energy and the drive for you to keep going and work as much as you want or as little as you want, depending on your goals. Okay. I'm not talking about that. All right. The last slide here. The last slide is this: mental health. The reason I put that is because the reason why I started this whole thing of me getting in shape is because I wasn't quote unquote happy. I was happy. I just didn't have this drive. I didn't have this like this energy, this push. And it was bothering me a lot. I would wake up and it's like, like I just felt kind of, just blah, right? Now, this whole mental health thing is I started thinking about it a lot. The reason I started thinking about it is because I was like, okay, a lot of these terms and a lot of these things, there are a lot of labels, right? Like, anxiety, depression, a lot of mental disorders, and all these different categories and labels, right? Like whenever you see someone doing something that is quote unquote out of the norm, for some reason, somehow, psychology has a label for that person. Don't you find that weird? Don't you find it weird that there must be a label given to every single thing? That it can't just be that, I even doubt this whole introverted, extroverted thing. I honestly don't even think it's real. Whoever is introverted has chosen to stay away from people. Whoever is extroverted has chosen to be around people. Now, if you're extroverted and you chose to be around people and you're like, I want to be around people. Well, you have that gumption. You have high confidence. A person who has high confidence in themselves will naturally be good around people. So then they will be quote unquote extroverted because they have high confidence. People who don't have high confidence, they might be very smart. Don't get me wrong. They might be incredibly, incredibly smart, but they're quote unquote introverted. But that to me is honestly, it doesn't mean much. Now, here's the kicker, because you're like, oh, Dr. Spinati, there is psychology. There's a lot of research. Yes, of course. I studied psychology. I have a minor in psychology. Okay. I studied a lot of psychology. I read a lot of psychology books. But then I started thinking to myself, I'm like, well, how do they come up with these research? Right? A lot of it is very, if I may say, bias. And then I started looking into it. I'm like, okay, well, the main thing that psychologists and psychiatrists look at is the DSM, okay, the Diagnostic Manual for Mental Disorders. And I started thinking, I'm like, wouldn't it be interesting if that manual that these clinicians look at to diagnose people, mental disorders, to give them labels of depression, anxiety, and all this stuff, wouldn't it be interesting if that was influenced by a third party, which makes it then not really valid because it contains very biased direction? So I looked into it. Get this. This is published in 2006. You can Google it yourself. I literally just copied and pasted. It's a published article, a published paper, 2006. Our inquiry into relationships between DSM panel members and the pharmaceutical industry demonstrates that there are strong financial ties between the industry and those who are responsible for developing and modifying the diagnostic criteria for mental illness. There is a strong tie between the industry and those who are responsible for developing and modifying the diagnostic criteria for mental illness. So then you have to ask yourself, am I really not happy? Or is it just I'm not in shape? That's the question you have to ask yourself. Do I really have some sort of mental illness? Or am I just not in shape? You really have to ask yourself these things. And the reason you really have to ask yourself these things is because a lot of these things, as you saw, and this is from 2016, almost 20 years ago. So you can imagine the amount of developments and the sophistication that has happened in order for you to drown in information and believe in things that are not even true. 2006, people. I'm not making it up. You can Google it yourself. So get in shape, transform your life, and it only takes 3 months. You don't need any drugs. You don't need anything at all. You don't even need protein powder. I only took protein powder because I enjoyed it. I knew I didn't need it. I knew that without it, I'd still be the same. I didn't take anything else. I promise. And I looked like I was on steroids, but I wasn't. I was just on a lot of discipline. I woke up at 3 a.m. I worked out really hard, and I was very disciplined in what I ate. So you can do it as well. Have yourself a wonderful night. And as always, keep smiling.